Welcome to today's webcast series presentation. If your firm is so successful, where's all the money? My name is Beth Brooks with Civil and Structural Engineer Media. Thank you for joining this webcast, which is sponsored by BQE. Before we begin today's presentation, first some general information about the webcast and the GoToWebcast platform. The views of the speakers and organizations participating in this webcast are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Civil and Structural Engineer or its publisher, Zweig Group. If you have any technical difficulties while viewing this webcast, please submit questions or a brief explanation of your technical problem using the Question tab on GoToWebinar control panel, and a representative will assist you. During the webcast, you can also submit questions to our speaker using the same Question tab. Submit your questions at any time, and we will try to answer as many as we can later in the webcast. Zweig Group encourages group learning for our events. If you are viewing the live webcast with a group on one registered person's computer, that person must complete and submit the multiple viewer registration form for the group in order for everyone to earn credit. Download the multiple viewer registration form from the Handouts tab on the control panel. Submission instructions are on the form. Today's presenter is Steve Burns. Steve is a licensed architect and a member of the College of Fellows of the American Institute of Architects. He sold his architectural firm in 2007 to work full-time on the startup he launched to create ArchiOffice and Engineer Office, and then brought his expertise to BQE Software. He earned his Master of Architecture from the Harvard University Graduate School of Design and his Bachelor of Fine Arts from Syracuse University. His passions include ultra-endurance cycling. He's ridden as far as 522 miles without stopping, and working with Los Angeles social venture partners to help innovative nonprofits change the landscape for social justice. And now I'm going to hand it over to you, Steve.
Okay, thank you, Beth. Let me just take a second here, everybody, and just change the screen to show my screen. Show my screen. Okay, I think we're good there. And let me put up my slide. Okay, good. Okay, thank you for that introduction again. Welcome, everybody. So in the next, let's say 45 minutes, I'm going to take you, pardon me, on a journey that's really the result of nearly 30 years of working in the AE industry. And as Beth mentioned, while I did have 14 years running my own practice in Chicago, it's a mid-sized firm before I really had my career hijacked by software, I've had the unique opportunity to have worked directly with hundreds of small and medium-sized firms. I have spent time in over 200 different businesses, and I've spoken with well over 1,000 firm owners. And as professionals, we have with very specific training, and I'm guessing most of you are very good at providing your services to your clients. You're highly educated in your field, and with all of your expertise, this is why your clients come knocking on your door. But I can also assume that many of you who are here today are here because you're really no different than most other professionals in that you do great work, you've received professional accolades, but there may not be much else to show for all of that effort, for all of those late nights and lost weekends. Or maybe it's just that you thought that there would be more. So where did all the money go? Now, I'm going to ask 4 poll questions as I get through my presentation here today, and I would appreciate it if you could give your response as quickly as possible, and it will be helpful to us here at BQE and for me as I take you through the next presentation here. So first one will be, how do you define success? So let me go ahead and launch the poll. I've given you some preset answers. I'm sorry, I would prefer to give you a text field where you can just tell me about your definition, but this is the easiest way to do it. If you can, as quickly as possible, give me an idea of what you think. Having fun doing your work, just having thrilled clients and happy employees, achieving your own personal goals, but contributing to your community, having enough money to do whatever you want, or being recognized by your peers for the quality of work. If you can just pick one of those options, I know it's pretty hard, And I'll give you, let's say, 10 more seconds. Kind of give it a gut response. And by the way, I get to see how many of you have voted, so I get a good sense of, are you here in the room with me, or have you left? Let's give you 5 more seconds. I'll extend it. 5 more seconds. And we will close the poll. And let's go ahead and share the results so we can all see this. So it's kind of a close there. Achieving personal life goals, but contributing to your community is at the top of the list. Next, having thrilled clients and happy employees and being recognized by your peers. What's interesting is 31% having enough money to do whatever you want was very low down. And the reason why I wanted to, let me close that poll, mention this is because I first asked this poll question because I ran a survey at a conference where I was a speaker, and I asked everyone in attendance to literally write down what they said was their definition of success and on a piece of paper, and then they handed it in to me as we ended the session. There were about 40 people in that session. Only one person who responded had any mention of money whatsoever. Nearly all of them had answers that fall into those basic categories that I asked you to choose from. So ultimately, we all want to love what we do. Many of us, in fact, do love our jobs and we get deep satisfaction out of our work. But I have to remind you that we are all in a business. And if your business isn't profitable, if it isn't itself sustainable, it's not going to be there in the long term. So I am happy that you love your work, but you also have to be very good, let's say at farming or gardening, or you're not going to have enough food to eat. So having a business that is of high quality and of high value to both your employees and your clients is actually the foundation to having a company that will provide material wealth. And while I give many webinars about business metrics, we're really not talking about that. It's more qualitative aspects of running a firm that we're going to look at today. Now, since I've already used that farmer or gardener analogy, this is an appropriate slide to show. I like to look at your firm as a garden. It's a place of opportunity which needs to be carefully tended in order to reap, the most bountiful harvest. And you can get on your hands and knees and you can dig deep into the dirt and carefully till that soil and individually plant each seed, or you can get some tools and equipment to help make your job easier. And those investments will allow you to exploit all the potential that is inherent in your garden. Now, over the past 15 years, I've seen pretty much every good and bad practice that can happen in a professional services firm. And I'm going to give you my takeaways of things that I hope will inspire you to re-examine your own processes, throw away some of your old bad habits, and implement what I'm about to show you are what I consider best practices that have helped so many of our customers achieve their goals and become successful. And I'm just going to give you a slide right now. This is not about billing rates. It's not about how to calculate your fees or find, the utilization rates that are appropriate for your staff. Things that are clearly about money. This is about areas that you can address that will enable those questions to even matter. So here are the 10 lessons I consider to be the true keys to helping you achieve your potential. First is have a realistic marketing program. And I'm going to take slides later that will go into these. Having constant communications, both with your clients, but mostly in this case, I'm going to talk about your employees. Eliminating this problem that some firms have of an indispensable employee. Clearly managing your expenses is important. Having what I call are truly human resources, not just dealing with human resources as a means of compliance. Putting in place practical procedures within your firm. Being flexible, being open to changing the way you run your business. Putting your attention and even your contracts on things that you can control, and I'll get into that. Getting client feedback. And then a term I will close with, which is called the last taste lingers, and we'll close with that. So before I go into those a little deeper, I have another poll question to ask you. So let's open up the first one. Does your firm have a formalized marketing plan? You could say, no, our work just comes through referrals and kind of living from hand to mouth. Or no, but you do maintain a website and you do get a lot of clients through that, and I could consider a website kind of marketing. Yes, you have a plan, but there's no one in your office who's truly accountable for making sure that that plan is being achieved. And yes, we have not only a plan, but we have a budget allocated towards achieving that plan, and someone on our staff who's dedicated to making sure that that happens and is accountable. So we'll give you a few minutes or a minute to answer that. This is an easy poll question, shouldn't require too much thought unless you're a person in a firm who actually has no idea if there even is a marketing department. So I'll give you 5 seconds. 3, 2, oh, look at everybody at the very last minute comes in. So let's share that, close the poll and share the results. So nothing overwhelming. Of course, yes, 34% of you do have the plan, do have the budget. That is absolutely fantastic. We'll talk about that in a moment. And then other ones are kind of equally split. Very good. We're going to close that poll. Thank you for that. Now let's move on, get to the good stuff. So many people think that since you're busy, business seems good, that there's really no need for marketing your services. This is not true. It is far easier to cultivate new leads, new clients, new projects when your business is thriving than when it is not. The promotion that you do when you are flying high is so much more memorable than when you are really scratching around for work. So I would like you to integrate your marketing into the normal activities of your practice and make sure that every employee understands that they too are part of your marketing. I think best practices really have shown me that if you set aside 2 hours every week and you focus solely on marketing efforts, it doesn't matter, if it's photography of your projects or social media postings, managing your website, revising your brochure, doing a direct mail piece, or even writing for trade publications or speaking at conferences. What you need to do is block out that time and you make it sacrosanct. Put it in your calendar, 2 hours. Now, branding might seem like a term that's really not appropriate for your business. After all, aren't brands for Coca-Cola and Chevrolet and Apple, and you're not selling a commodity. You're a professional providing a service, and you're above branding. Now, if this is really what you think, then you're missing out on the fact that humans connect emotionally to a brand. You yourself are a brand, and for your company, your name, everything you do, the way you present yourself with your business cards, your graphics, your brochures, websites, social media postings, any digital communications like your emails, even the footer in your email or your signature line, Facebook and Instagram, House or Twitter, even the way your phones are answered, it makes an impact on how you are perceived. So the clothes you wear, well, these things all contribute to your brand. So how you are perceived is actually what is your brand. And I implore you to look at every seemingly minor element in your business and think about how does that help promote or detract from the message of your practice. And I want you to be as obsessive with your brand as you are with the care that you give your clients, with the work that you provide them. So if you think also that firms get press, it's because they're good, you're grossly mistaken. If you think you're not getting enough attention, you're not getting published because maybe your work isn't good enough, you're wrong. You're not getting published because you're not being proactive about it. By getting your work and the message out into the world through media, you're not only becoming introduced to new audiences, but you're going to bolster your existing image amongst your existing clients and your colleagues. Also helps when you're doing hiring. People have recognition of you and they want to work for people who are being published. Now today, with all of the social media opportunities, there's really no longer that barrier between firms with the big marketing budgets, as some 34% of you did have a budget, and you. So the walls have really been torn down. Because there is a constantly growing universe of media outlets today, your options are really growing. Blogs and industry news sites, these are leading in that growth. But good old-fashioned print magazines are still the de facto place to be. In fact, trade publications often welcome bylined articles, which can allow you to write about your expertise and present it like a case study. And this is not very sexy, but it's a great way to reach a targeted audience of decision makers. So not just magazines, but newspapers, online op-eds, and by contributing to blogs and blog comments, you continue to broaden your reach and impact. And by the way, I'm talking about these things that are part of that 2 hours a week I'm suggesting that you set aside for yourself. Do these kinds of things. So everybody's got a story to tell it well, share your knowledge and experience, and become what we refer to as a branded expert. And by the way, if you can't do this yourself, or you can't afford an in-house marketing department, you outsource this to a professional if you have the budget, but you will be surprised that you just might have some talent in this area already in your firm. You might have some gregarious employees who love networking, some who are excellent writers. Allocate time for them to work on this effort, and they will undoubtedly rise to this challenge. And I'm quite certain, as we have here at our company, you've got some younger staff that are extremely adept at social media and can help promote your brand. Clearly networking, being out in the community where your clients are. I know this is an obvious statement, but if you don't get reminded about it, you're more likely to maybe shy away from those activities. And by the way, while we're on this topic of marketing, I'll leave it here, but make sure you have a strategy about marketing. Otherwise, your efforts will be without any focus and probably not end in any results that you can expect. So some firms make the mistake of what's referred to as, spray and pray, without really focusing in on the message you want people to know about you and your company. So find the niche, let's say it's a niche where you want to excel, build that beachhead for your company, put together the marketing plan and have that budget, and have expectations of what you're going to get for that budget. And if you don't measure it, and you're all engineers, you should understand it. If you don't measure it, you really can't understand it if it's working or not, or even how to fix it. Okay, constant communication. I can't say enough about the importance of communicating with your staff. And clearly, we hopefully have all figured out, that we need to constantly communicate with our clients, and it should be quality communications. But please do not neglect your own team. My recommendation is that you have weekly in-house meetings at a time that makes sense for everybody. Make this meeting a must-attend event, and always at the same exact time. And while some firms do consider this a drain on their resources, since most valuable employees bill hourly in many cases, and they're trying to keep their utilization rate as high as possible, by taking an hour out of each week to gather the forces, you're going to save dozens of hours, and more importantly, maybe even minimize your risk. When you handle this properly, all the key members of your staff can be kept apprised of what's going on with everybody else. And it makes sense, not only if they're working on the same projects, but even just hearing about what other projects are in the office and any critical information about these things really helps build up not only a knowledge base for the employees, but it allows people to provide their own insights and can even dive in and help when they're called upon. So I have this picture up here because I think of an office, not just as a garden, your firm's the garden, but I think the office and the people are like an orchestra. Each member of the firm, they do have a role to play. They must know the music and their instrument, but there must be somebody in charge who is like the conductor that will ensure each person performs perfectly, in the right time, and that the concert's going to be a success. So who is the conductor in your firm? And they're not going to tolerate people not showing up for that meeting, that rehearsal. They don't need to be proficient in each instrument, by the way. They just need to be, they need to be respected by the other performers and to understand the score. And only then can true harmony be achieved. So without a reliable and respected conductor, the audience is going to stand up and walk away. We all know this. The audience, by the way, is your client, and you and your firm, you're the performer. When it comes to communication, email, it's really kind of the de facto tool in use, and I can't tell you enough how problematic email is. I'm sure many of you wake up in the morning and check your email right away, and you see, let's say there's 100 unread emails, and you start working your way through these. And if this is you, you may not realize it, but you don't control your own schedule. It's run by your email. All those things that you intended to take care of today, they're going to be put on hold while you're responding to everyone who's trying to grab a piece of you via email. Frankly, if you've heard me talk before, my expectation is within a few years, email is going to go the way of that fax machine. It's going to be a quaint relic that some old timers will still hang on to, who still use MySpace and AOL, but for which the younger generation, they're going to find email totally puzzling. So we're talking about constant communication, and I've listed here a number of products that I would encourage you to look into if you are not already aware of these. These are really alternatives to living in that email universe. So here at my company, at BQE Software, not only do we develop Core, which is on that top line there, we use Core, but since there are a number of great tools we need, we also use on this list Slack, Basecamp, the Google Suite, G Suite, Dropbox, we use Monday, and we even use Jira. Each tool has its own purpose, just like each employee. And we can rely on these tools to make sure that our business is running efficiently. I've actually given, as I mentioned, an entire webinar on this subject alone, but for today, I just want to get across that your firm needs to stop sending emails back and forth with file attachments. And once you've used tools like this, you're going to realize how truly obsolete email is. And while I'm on the subject of tools, I am reminded of the psychologist Abraham Maslow and his quote of, if the only tool you have is a hammer, you tend to see every problem as a nail. And so we're surrounded by tools, and some of these technologies are hardware, like printers and computers and all sorts of physical items, and others are software products, from desktop applications to cloud-based apps, and our mobile apps, and some of those things I showed you on the prior screen. Either way, each of these serves a purpose, and we need to recognize when the tool has outlived its welcome. Hopefully, many of you have removed that fax machine from your office, and if you are, like an architect like me or an engineer, as I suspect many of you are, you probably have removed your drafting tables, your triangles, your Maylines, etc. If you continue to use those tools, you're, as Marshall McLuhan recognized, becoming victims of them. And perhaps the worst example of this is Microsoft Excel. And I can't tell you how many firms run their business through Excel. And it has an extraordinary negative impact on both the individual who has to build those Excel spreadsheets and they're maintaining those things, but it's really has a negative impact on the firm as a whole, which is really a victim of bad, out-of-date information. And it's like having your firm make decisions while you're driving in your car, but you only get updates on the amount of fuel in your gas tank every week or two. And if this were the case, we would have cars stalled on the sides of the roads everywhere. And actually, that's actually a better scenario than your own office, which may have run out of gas weeks ago, but your staff doesn't even have a clue about that. So if you want to learn more about why I say this, I encourage you to watch the webinar I gave recently, which is titled, Is Your Business Prepared for the AI Revolution? That's the artificial intelligence revolution. And you can, by the way, go to our website at bqe.com and just go to the events page, and you can just watch that webinar. Anyway, suffice it to say, Excel, it's about as appropriate a tool to run your firm on as a fax machine is for sharing information with others. And I'm going to give you just some examples of kind of like what I mean about this. So let me just get my little highlighter spotlight thing. I think that should work. Hopefully, hang on here. Does that not work? Spotlight. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. I want to go back here. Go back here. So not sure if you could see this, but this is just a screenshot. I'm inside of a project, and these are dashboards basically within your project. So no one has to be running spreadsheets for your staff to get good information to understand what's the value of the work in progress, or how much. On the very upper right, you'll notice the cost column, right? This is how much money we've spent as the very second in time that we've invested in a client's project, and what's the profitability, right? This project's sitting at a 20% profit margin. I know it now at $77,000 profit on a $314,000 investment. So there's a lot of great stuff that you get when you have a system in your firm that is analyzing the data, has business intelligence, and can deliver it to you in real time. Here, for an example, I'm looking at Sally Ryan, who is an employee. I'm able to see instantly what is her effective bill rate. In the upper right, I can see what's her ideal pay rate. The system tells me what is the appropriate amount of money to pay an employee based on their effectiveness in my company. What kind of revenue are they bringing me? It knows what I'm spending to keep them employed, and it's telling me what they're worth to me. That's all data-driven. Great information. Excel analyses are not necessary here. Having dashboards like in your car, letting you know that that gas tank is going to be empty instantly. Having these kinds of things letting me know how much money on the left there under account balances, how much is in our checking account and our savings account, how much is sitting in a drawer, undeposited funds, waiting to be put into the bank. Keeping me visually in touch with those kinds of things that make sure I don't run into trouble. Here's my own, by the way, personal dashboard where I get information that is relevant and important to me. I won't go into all of these right now, but the middle one is my allocation this week. It's telling me what I'm supposed to be doing. So I don't come to work one morning and wonder what am I doing. I'm being told what projects and how many hours I'm working on them. And then I'm monitoring my team here as well. So this is really great, effective communication coming to me through a system, not through people who are trying to take time out of their day where they can be doing more important things, but I'm monitoring all the things that I care about and bringing them on dashboards that make me more informative. And reports. All of you I know want to be given reports. Today, most of you have someone in your firm stop, get some data, run a report, print it out, put it on your desk. It gets stuck under a bunch of other pieces of paper. For here, an example for BQE Core, I've run a project profitability report, but I don't need to run this because I can actually tell Core, hey, I want to get this every Monday morning at 7 a.m. and have it sent to me and maybe some other people in the firm. And so our system is in place that takes care of automatically making sure individuals get information at the time that's helpful for them to get it. So I get an email at 7 a.m. that just gives me this particular report. No one stops in their day. And that system is looking all around itself and putting together the project schedule based on what people are assigned to be working on. And even if I've done my resource allocation, I can see who's available. 3 people are overbooked right here. They're in red. Everybody else in gray. These are people that are available. Most of you are using Excel spreadsheets to make this happen. That same piece of data can be looked at. What kind of money will I be getting from all the things that people are working on? The system can look ahead, using its business intelligence to tell me what kind of revenue I can expect to see, in this case, on a monthly basis for all those people. So, and just enough of that. I can't talk enough about how terrible Microsoft Excel is as a way to run a business. It has its utility, for a special project of some sort to understand something new, but as a means of a procedure in your company, it's just the wrong tool to use. This was about never having any indispensable people in your company. If you expect your company to have any real value, it shouldn't be you, if you're the owner, or it shouldn't be a key employee that's considered that value. And if that's the case, then your intrinsic value is really tenuous at best. What if that indispensable employee decided to leave? Boom, there goes a boatload of value. What if they get injured or even worse, die? Kaboom, you are toast. If you're a business owner and you have any sort of exit strategy, then you have to appreciate that you better not be indispensable. Otherwise, if you ever try and sell your firm, you're going to have to leave yourself behind, or you're going to have to reduce your valuation if you plan to leave after a sale. Now, if you're not the owner, but let's say you're a key employee, you're thinking that I'm crazy for telling you that you shouldn't be indispensable. And I'm saying, yes, you should be valuable, but you should not be indispensable. If you're interested in keeping your value to the company, then you should invest in self-improvement. You're not perfect, your company's not perfect, but every organization and individual, they should strive to improve, to be better tomorrow than they are today. And what happens if that person that's standing there in my picture up on that keystone, what if that and the keystone should disappear? That entire arch is going to collapse, and you're really, your business should not be structured like an arch or a house of cards. I found these two little cartoons, welcome back from your vacation, Mr. Indispensable. Nobody can do his work. And then on the right, remember, if you can't be replaced, you can't be promoted. So if you want to protect your position, rather than making your job a mystery or appear so difficult no one else would want it, make other people's lives easier. And if you want to find ways to improve the business, you're valuable, but don't make yourself that person. By the way, I can't tell you how many firms I've been into where there have been, I apologize if you're present here, office managers that create the most complex spreadsheets. It would make Rube Goldberg scratch his head in wonderment. They're so difficult to understand, and nobody else really understands how they're constructed. They can't inherit them. They can't take them over. So what happens when that person leaves is they have to start from scratch, right? The next person coming in to take the role won't be able to handle it, or they just can't leave, and they've made themselves indispensable, and they're basically strong arming the owner for whatever they want because they're indispensable. Frankly, if I found an indispensable person in my midst, I'd kind of remove them. Don't tolerate that. Let me see. Okay, and then the last point is in that cartoon on the right. If you've made yourself so indispensable, pretty much you're stuck doing that job. So that doesn't sound too exciting to me. Okay, good. We're going to see if you're still awake with me. I'm going to ask you a third poll question here. So we'll go ahead and launch that. It is, does your firm create an annual, let's call it an annual operating budget and a business plan? So the answer is no, we just invoice our clients, we pay our bills, and it seems to work. Or no, and sometimes we can't in fact pay our bills. We have a tough cash flow problem. We have to, get a line of credit or borrow money somehow. Or yes, we do have the operating budget, we do have a plan, but no one is monitoring that. No one is accountable to it. And then lastly, yes, you've got the plan, you got the budget, you are, let's say, quarterly reviewing it, and someone is really running that whole process for you and making sure the company is on target. So take a couple more moments here and let me know which category you might fall in. I'm gonna have to pick up my pace here too. Give you 5 more seconds. Well, I got to close the poll, and I've got to congratulate this group. Twice now, you have impressed me. Yes, you do have the plan, and you review it regularly, and someone's accountable. So this is a good group of people. You're amongst good company. This is terrific. But then in second place is no, we just hope to, make our bills get paid. So 35% of you definitely, or maybe like 44% of you probably have an issue here that hopefully we can address. Okay, we're gonna move on. This kind of is like a no-brainer, but one of the best ways to keep your firm financially healthy is to stop throwing away your money. And the list can really go on. I'm just gonna limit, these are my favorites that I've put up here on your screen. Oh, I gotta hide that, hide the results. There we go. Okay, so the cost of all of your business insurance policies, these can add up to a large percentage of your total expenses, even though you have a strong relationship with your insurance agent, and I do with mine. Make it a regular practice to bid out your insurance at least every 2 years. The market is constantly changing, And whether it's health insurance, professional liability, general business insurance, whatever it is, we're talking really about thousands and thousands of dollars that can be saved every year by a few simple phone calls and filling out some pretty annoying forms. I can't tell you the number of firms that I have seen that leave so much money on the table. First of all, in your contracts, make sure you have a clause for your reimbursable or your billable expenses. Make it clear what is included or not included. And if you have particular unit costs, like printing charges for large format prints, whatever, make sure that it is clear to that client. Track those expenses carefully and make sure that they appear on your invoices in the month that they are incurred. Better yet, make sure you have a reimbursable expense markup. Many firms have a standard markup. It's usually between 10 and 20% for those billable expenses. Now, if you have a $50,000 in reimbursable expenses over your year, for all of your work, all of your clients, printing, travel, consultants, and you have an average, let's say 20% markup on it, that's an easy $10,000 that you're going to earn to offset the costs of having, overhead employees like, bookkeeper, office people to manage those expenses. And if you don't charge that markup, that's $10,000 you're going to have left in the client's pocket. Next is, since I was talking about tracking all those prints, large format prints, we find having a print tracking system in your firm. I'm not talking about like a clipboard and a piece of paper. I'm talking about software, okay? Having that is going to really solve one of the biggest lost opportunities. The cost to implement print tracking is insignificant, and the return, by the way, on that investment is typically 1 to 2 months. So proper print tracking software allows you to log every print on every project, and it knows how to charge differently for different kinds of prints in different color or black and white and the size and all the rest. And by the way, there are companies that will put their own printer equipment in your firm and they maintain all of it, everything. You don't have to do anything, and they will invoice you monthly for all the usage of that printer. And it's often easier to get your clients to reimburse you for those expenses when it's outsourced to a third party. Again, while we're on printing, I would recommend you get rid of those expensive old printers that gobble up expensive ink cartridges. Simply getting rid of these is going to reduce the amount of wasted print matter. There is a company in New York City that removed nearly all of their printers that were scattered around the office, and it didn't take long for employees to simply stop that habit of just hitting print every time they get an email or whatever that, every little thing. Most of the paper you print just sits there and never does anything. By the way, I came across a study by the EPA that found the average office worker uses 10,000 sheets of copy paper a year, and that it accounts for 40% of all of the waste from office buildings. And yeah, it is highly recyclable, but a lot gets wasted, and it saves trees, saves money, it eases the landfills and other resources. So, institute green policies, and you can even use that in your marketing. Lastly, shut down your computers or make sure they are put to sleep, both the hard drive and the monitor. Wasted energy cost is on average $96 per desktop computer every year. Now, of course, not all computers are equal, right? Older ones consume more energy, but let's just say you're a firm with 20 computers. You're going to spend about $2,000 a year keeping those hogs running while nobody's even using them. So if you're not going to shut them down at night, at least have them use their go to sleep operating system, have that done. And by the way, I just wanted to talk again about the reimbursable expenses. I'm back in BQE Core. Here in our app, you're going to notice this is what's called a fee schedule. This one's for the Aspen Cultural Center. And here's where I have a list of all of our expenses that we can expect and that are allowed on this project, how much we're going to charge for them if we know that in advance, like car mileage, and what our markups are going to be. Some clients might not allow certain markups. Some might want 10%, 15%, 20%, whatever the markup is allowed. So when we set up a fee schedule in Core for a project, nobody in our firm ever needs to think about it. Every time an expense appears in our system, our billing system knows how much to charge, how much is the markup to put on top of that, and your firm will never leave $1 on the table when you have a system like core in this case, that monitors every cost, both billable and non-billable, both expenses and services. Okay, and here are a few providers I've given you for software solutions that can really help you get control of that printing. So take a look at any of these. Sepia line on the bottom right, it's quite famous. I'm sure many of you are already using that. And by the way, if you do get a program like this, think about the other tools in your office. For example, like all of these will integrate with our core solution, BQE Core, because they have open APIs that allow, or they do have APIs that will allow them to communicate with other cloud-based solutions. So no one anymore has to manually put in data from the print tracking software into their, example, billing software, or putting it into Core, which does a lot more than just the billing. So integration amongst these software tools is also fantastic today. We're in the renaissance with cloud computing. Okay, I gotta speed this up, guys. We've all heard that expression that our employees these are our most important, our most valuable asset. And if that's true, why are we so sloppy with the way we handle them? And it's mostly due to the fact that small and mid-sized professional service firms really don't have enough staff to dedicate a full-time human resources manager. And it's another reason why you should be investing in a tool, in software for this purpose. It's a smart thing to do. And by the way, I can't do it today. If you really want to go deep into the human resources issue, I invite you to watch another webinar recording that I did that's actually hugely popular. It's titled, Your Employees, the Most Important Asset You Are Neglecting. And you can find that again on the BQE Software events page. So I'm going to have to move past this. I would hope that you consider your employees to be at least as long-term a relationship as your clients. So making sure that their arrival in your firm is welcoming, it's organized, it doesn't leave them searching for answers. It will go a long way to ensuring that long-term relationship and their job satisfaction. So when a new person joins the firm, please assign someone to make sure that they learn the ins and outs of your office, all those little nuances that you take for granted. Since it's really, you've been there so long, you don't even realize that these are like perks and things and how to get things done. So they have no idea about this. So sharing this with them, they're going to feel welcomed. And it's also important that they learn about your business systems, including the software that they're going to need to be using. It's not always possible to hire a new person that's perfect and they know your software tools. So it's better to hire the right person and train them on your software than to hire a candidate who knows all your software, but they really don't fit into the culture of your firm. And most small and mid-sized firms are really like families. It's important that everybody fits in. By the way, once hired, don't just throw at them a bunch of government compliance forms, insurance, retirement accounts, all that stuff. Have someone sit with them, walk them through these, especially for younger employees. This is really alien stuff for them. Also, I might get into this in another slide, but you have to have an employee manual. It needs to be comprehensive. And there are a lot of sources that can help you if you don't already have one. If I surveyed it, I'm hopefully 100% of you will have this, but it's really that go-to document for just about any employee question or any problem. And you need to have this not just for your protection, but it also provides a sense of comfort to a new employee so that they know what the protocols are and the processes that are in place in your company. Professional development is really common. I mean, pretty much every profession today has continuing education requirements. It's really there. So you have to institute a program in your firm, formalize this for regular employee training. That includes, by the way, training for the principals as well. No one should be exempt from keeping up to date with, let's just say, the latest trends that can affect their job. So create those opportunities where that can happen, from simple lunch and learn, or allowing your staff to get some time off to attend professional development and training events. It's also easily instituted. And we've seen many firms who use our software who have actually added a category in their time cards that provides these yearly allowances, similar to how they handle vacation and personal leave. So make sure you do that. I definitely want you to support education. Of course, start planning those lunch and learn, team lunches, and educates while it satiates, as they say. Flexible hours or location. This is becoming a lot more commonplace than it was only a few years ago. And this is especially, true now that firms are moving into the cloud, which is built around mobility. And so when you're looking at tools that will help run your firm, it's another reason that you should look at solutions that not only understand your profession, but are cloud native, and they're designed around the concepts of mobile first. Younger employees who are comfortable with technology are more likely to question your traditional office culture. So you really need to consider keeping strong talent happy and provide them with more flexibility and, of course, more responsibility. By the way, in addition, today's global market and here in this country, we have very low unemployment, historically low unemployment, which means you need to find the right talent, and they're not going to be in your backyard always. So thankfully, because cloud computing is here, you no longer have the headaches of creating these virtual private networks or confusing and complex IT needs that really require IT consultants. Those days are over with. There's no barrier other than the fact that you really like to have people physically present with you. That means people have to work in your office. I just wanted to give you a quick graphic showing our BQE Core native mobile app. And the world has come to the point where people will not accept having to be in their office or in front of a computer to have connection to their work. So find products out there, like Core, that make mobility absolutely effortless. I just love it when I go to our customers' offices and there are pets roaming around and sitting under desks. So if you institute a pets at work policy, you just might find that at the end of the day, your staff isn't rushing out to get home and take care of their pet. By the way, pets just make everything more fun, right? I'm going to go a little fast over this, but employee reviews, they have to be described in that handbook that we talked about earlier. Get them in the calendar. And by the way, separate a performance review from a salary review. That's probably the only point I really want to make here. It's totally important. Having a performance review first, make sure your employee understands the improvements you're expecting to see in the upcoming period. It really helps them understand the motivations for your performance requirements. And if you combine the performance and salary at the same time, your discussions are all going to be overshadowed by the salary number. And it's very common to set these expectations for your staff. And then when you do a salary review, look at how they've done. Have they met those expectations? It also gives you a good opportunity. If you have to disappoint them about the salary, you have actually the fact that maybe they didn't achieve that goal. So performance reviews, very critical. Just wanted to show you a tool that can help you with this. Would be a human resources software program. We include human resources as part of the BQE Core solution, but here's where you get to your employees can see live their accruing paid time off. No one has to calculate that for them any longer, right? Because the software knows what are the rules for how people earn vacation, holiday, sick leave, whatever you want to call it, comp time, how those things are earned. And then, running employee reviews, doing salary histories, tracking every incident, creating journal entries for these things that will protect you at the time if there's ever any employment law issues. Having them in a system, having the right tool that will protect you and make it easy and simple for both you and your employees is a fantastic tool to have around the office. Okay, so we talked about onboarding earlier. I just want to mention that one of the most important times of an employee's time in your firm is also if they do leave, whether it's voluntarily or leaving or they're terminated. Generally, either case, it's a failure of the company, or usually it's the failure of their manager. So in our core solution, we not only have an area for those review templates for onboarding, but not for onboarding, review templates for the general review, but also exit review templates. So ask these questions when they're leaving. They're going to be way more honest with you about how they feel about the company. Use this as an opportunity to improve everything in your firm. I got to move a little faster. Culture based on passion. If you guys, people cycle, please welcome people to bring their bikes to work, just like their pets. Have a shower in the office if you can. Otherwise, you're going to regret having done that. But find opportunities to have your people who have passions outside of the work. Let the firm become a place that fosters that as well. I guess I touched on this earlier. Practical procedures, and I love this quote from Einstein: intellectuals solve problems. You're probably all very good problem solvers, but geniuses prevent the problems. So rather than creating problems for your firm, why don't you and then have to figure out how to fix these things. Instead, put these procedures in place and formalize those things. So like this is the old-fashioned binder system. Obviously, software can manage this for you as well. And then I have this other quote from Lincoln. If I had 8 hours to chop down a tree, the first 6 hours I would spend sharpening my axe. Having these things in place makes the actual hard work that you do so much easier. Okay. And then the last thing I want to point out is checklists. I live by my checklists. Okay. And the value of a simple checklist is proven through the aviation industry. So it doesn't matter how experienced a pilot is, 40 years, Sully Sullenberg, whatever his name is, once you're in the cockpit, you pick up that checklist, you go down the list and make sure whether you're taking off, before you take off, or before you land, go through that checklist. It will really, keep you from having to scramble when you miss a minor thing. I kind of look at this like if you're taking a walk in the woods and you think that there's a shortcut that you can take, and you just kind of climb up the steep area. It's going to be a little difficult. You're going to slip, you're going to fall down, you're going to make some mistakes. If you had just stayed on the path, you'd get up there with a lot less effort, probably in the same amount of time in the end. So the checklists are really the things that will save your firm. And I just want you to see again inside the core solution. To me, it doesn't matter what solution you use, but I really want you to have a tool to manage these things. And here I have a list inside of the Pasadena Elementary School of all the tasks that need to be done, who's going to take care of them, how complete are they, the employees can report back to me. And I don't even have to go here because on my dashboards that we were looking at earlier, I can see my own to-dos on the left, and I can be monitoring in my dashboard widget what are the things that my team is supposed to be working on, and are they on schedule. But if you have a checklist, nothing gets left out and you don't have those problems. I also want to just point out before we get to Q&A, a lot of firms think of themselves like this firm, Foster Partners. It's like, beautiful, elegant. The truth of the matter is, if you look where the clients don't see, and probably some firms look like this that are here today, where's your document management system? Okay, in this company, nobody's office should ever look like this today. We're in the digital era. There is no excuse for this any longer. Please stop, give your company some time, assign a person in your office to really look at document management systems. And here, again, I'm just showing you inside that same Pasadena Elementary School, in my project documents, that's where I find every piece of paper that we have, whether it's scanned or drawings that we've created that are built as PDFs. They're all visible here. They're also with me on my mobile app. I can just go to the same screen on my mobile phone in the native mobile app and open up any of those documents anywhere, anytime in the world. Get rid of all that paper. It's a hazard for many, many reasons. Poll question number 4, by the way, before we get to Q&A, I've got a couple more slides I wanted to share with you. So we're just going to not share the results here. We're just going to launch a poll. If anybody wants to know more about BQE Core Solution, here's your opportunity to let us know. Otherwise, we won't bother you. But if you want to know more about it, just let us know if you want to give a free trial or attend a live demo or just speak to our specialists. Just quickly, or not interested at all at this time. That's absolutely fine. If that's what you are, don't worry about it. I won't be insulted. And I'll give you, let's say 10 more seconds, 5 more seconds. Then we'll move on because I want to get to Q&A. And by the way, if there are any questions that I don't get to in the time given, I know that we're pretty tight on the hour. I will provide written answers to every question, and those will be sent out probably next week. So 3, 2, 1, let's close the poll. And we are now going to move to my next slide. Okay. For me, this is the most important thing in my entire life, is being open to change. So successful firms are able to adapt. They're vigilant. They're continuously aware of the marketplace and their place in it. So make those adjustments. It's also another reason why training or professional development is essential for success. And by the way, change isn't just about the services you provide. It's also about how you provide services. And just as an example, one of our customers told us that they were able to increase their own revenues in a single year by 28%, not by increasing their fees. They simply implemented a number of software technologies that allowed them to be more efficient so they could take on more work. So, change in the firm or change in your services, these are all things I want you to be aware of and embrace that thing. It also makes your life a whole lot more exciting. A lot of firms will lose money when they're, there's things that are outside of their control. It typically happens, for example, when a client kind of inserts themselves into the process at times when they're not welcome. And we can all understand that if all the factors were known up front about a project, your ability to accurately calculate your costs and those fees associated with it, you're going to charge your client, that would be very easy. But if you've got a client that's unpredictable, that maybe they come to your office and they just don't leave. They love being around the professionals. They enjoy it. Your project's going to suffer. Your team's not going to be able to get to their work. So we have seen a couple things that I wanted to share with you. When you negotiate your contract, see about fixing your fees for the areas where you are undeniably in control, and areas outside of that, bill for your time on an hourly basis. We've even seen one firm that had in their contract, anytime the client comes to their office for a meeting, they charge them on an hourly basis, but they don't charge them on an hourly basis when they go to the client's office for a meeting. And that because they can get up and leave the meeting at any time. But when their clients come to their offices, it was just so much fun and cool that they never left, and it brought down their productivity. So focus on what you can do in your contracts that can focus on what you can control and differentiate that stuff. I'm going to move fast forward through that. The penultimate slide is one of these neglected areas, is getting actual client feedback. First, it's easier to take a bad client and make them back into a winner client. So getting feedback from your client, we all make mistakes. If you've made it, make sure you understand why and find ways to win back that client, because it's far less expensive than having to go out and find new work. Also, you're going to understand your client's own motivations and you can respond properly. Also, understand the personality type of your client and make sure that the people in charge of that project, whether it's the principal or the project manager, is a good fit for those personality types. It's just not going to work if one of your clients is, loves to, go out and go drinking, and your, manager is, just not that kind of person. They want to be a little, whatever it is. So find the ways that is going to mesh so that they develop that kind of bond. And also watch out for scope creep. This is a huge, big problem. A lot of firms don't want to bring it up. They want to, just do the favor. They think they're being the nice guy, but the clients end up taking advantage of you. So please always document any changes in scope. Make your clients aware when you're giving them the freebie, but also make sure when that one's done that the next one doesn't happen with this. Too many of us lose our money because we are just too nice to our clients. And then the last one I wanted to close with is it's the last taste that lingers the most. So with all that client feedback, it doesn't matter. You could have had a year of working with them and it was wonderful, but things go horribly wrong at the end of a project and you've lost all that goodwill. So just remember that, you can also go the other way around. Could have been a really bad experience, but it ends as a winner. I had a lot of more points I wanted to add here, but I need to get to the Q&A, so I'm going to stop it right here. And I believe, Kari, you're with me on this call as well. Were there any questions that we have time to get to?
Yes, we have some questions, so let's get to it because we have about 1 minute left till the hour. So Danielle asks, what are some ways to make the firm more enthusiastic about marketing? Most see it as an additional task that gets left until the end of a project because there is a stigma around releasing works in progress.
Yeah, it probably depends on the kind of, I guess two things, the kind of work you do and whether it is something you would want to share. I know certainly I'm in touch with a lot of architectural firms who love sharing the progress of their work, but marketing isn't about just documenting a project and at the end of a project and publishing it and all. I talked about a whole bunch of other stuff. It doesn't even have to be project about completion, but it's about thought leadership and sharing that. So again, I think Instagram is a wonderful tool, especially in the building industry, to share what you're doing. But I think it's a lot to write there, and I'll probably write something more detailed. But I want to see if we can get another question in.
Okay, and another question is also from Danielle. She says, how important are offering office-sponsored social events like picnics and field trips? Some firms think they're a waste, but the younger employees feel isolated from their managers because there's no interaction outside of office.
That's a great question. Actually, I heard some from poo-poo this concept. We actually here at our company just had a big picnic, and it absolutely is phenomenal to get to meet everybody outside of a work environment. You meet their families. everybody in departments gets to meet everybody else and their children. There's just a lot that goes on, a lot of bonding that happens in the same way that when you go to a conference, there's a lot of things that happen that aren't there. So I think they're hugely important, but it does depend on the culture of the firm, and it needs to happen at the top of the firm to make everybody, that these are events that we want you to be a part of. It's not an obligation. We really want you to be there. There might be more work, and I'll give more thought in my written answer on that one too.
Okay, and we actually have a question in regards to CORE. Does CORE do document management?
So I did just share a short screen about it, which is, it's not full like a document management system that you would expect. You call up, a template of, here's my transmittal form and, or here's my change order form, things of that nature. But it simply has a way for you to log every document instead of like, sticking it in a filing cabinet. You connect it to CORE so that your team has access to it anywhere, anytime. There are true robust document management solutions out there. For example, Newforma, many of you may have heard of. I think these are fantastic tools that can help you with documents, because we all have hundreds, if not thousands of documents per project.
Okay, and we're going to end with a final question. And how much does CORE cost?
Oh, well, it all depends. It's not a one price for every user, so it's as little as $10 a month for a user. I think on average, CORE ends up for a typical firm ending up at about $17 a month per user is a typical firm size. So it's a few cents a day, basically, is the way I would look at that. That cost is not the issue here. The thing that's the issue is your company ready to embrace change and really put in a real system that allows you to really focus on your clients? And that's the way I look at CORE. It's a tool, it's a system that lets you do what you do, you love to do. I think we've gone over time. We should pass it back
yes,
to
we have.
Beth. Yep.
Yeah.
Beth?
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Do you mind? I'm going to toggle back over to my screen.
You could take over control.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Here we go.
All right. Okay. As we finish up, please download your certificate of completion now from the handout section. After downloading the certificate, enter your name in it and print and save a copy of the PDF. Note that the certificate will be available only during the remainder of this webcast. As a matter of fact, actually, I revised that, and I will be emailing a certificate of completion to all the attendees today, so be on the lookout for an email from me. If you missed our note at the beginning and you are watching the live webcast with a group on one person's computer, please download the multiple viewer registration form and complete and submit the form to receive credit. We need this information in case you are audited and we are contacted to verify this continuing education activity. Additionally, this webcast has been recorded and will be archived on csengineermag.com/continuing-education. Archive viewers must pass a quiz in order to download a certificate of completion. And thank you, Steve, and thank you to everyone who joined us. And this ends today's webcast.